What's up guys, Maik Wiedenbach here giving tips, but today's tips are not quite mine. They're from another, even more famous German coach than me by the name of Eugen Sandow, okay? He, pardon the appearance, but this was way before Instagram selfies and so on and so forth, you know. That's what he looked like. Since he lived in the late 1800s or 1900s, we can safely assume he never touched steroids or supplements. And I don't know about you, but he looks better than the majority of people in my gym in New York City. So he did something right? So his life story is interesting in the sense that he was athletic and then he basically went to a gymnastics club, then he went to a, what was then sort of like a wrestling team where he got introduced to dumbbells, barbells, and then basically became reasonably strong, became one of these like strongmen. He went to the circus. He wrestled apparently bears, lions, people, in no particular order, and then eventually became trained to the stars. Like he trained the Emperor of Germany, Frederick, and you know, became quite famous and wrote a bunch of books. So what I want to do is I want to basically go over what he discovered, what he got right, and what we can learn from, because like we said, he looks quite good, right? So one of the things he came to grips with was that one has to train. You're like, okay, so? Well, this was the 1880s, 1890s, where there was no professional sports, there was no reasoning behind doing anything but work, right? So for people to go out and train was an insane thought. He also said it's okay to train for looks, not just for health. Thirdly, he said women should train. What? Now mind you, back then women couldn't even go to the beach, right? Forget lifting weights. Women were still wearing corsets. So he said this has to stop, it's unhealthy. So that was radical, okay? He also said, you have to do what makes sense. Translation. Back then when people said, oh, I want to get fit, they joined a gymnastics team or in German Turnverein. He said, do you want to be a gymnast? Do you want to be on the pommel horse, the parallel bars? Most people said, no, I want to look good. He said, well then you should pick up weights. Translation, you want to be in shape, don't do CrossFit. Be a bodybuilder. Want to do CrossFit? Be a CrossFitter. He also said you should do things in a safe position, meaning none of this, as my daughter calls the hypfoline, the bouncy ball, or that nonsense. Be stable, right? That was radical. Like, don't do things for argument's sake. He was against gimmicks, so apparently, I'm not sure that's true or not, he got his first job, so to speak, by going to Amsterdam and ripping apart training machines. He said, see, this is crap, this is crap, this is crap. So, I mean, I love my cables and all that sort of thing, but like, you don't need an adductor machine or a seated calf raise. Those are just gimmicks. So then he also said, you should have proper intention. And he learned his anatomy, which again, for a self-taught person, was radical. And you know, we said this before in other videos, most people do not know that the pecs do this, right? So they keep on benching for bigger pecs and wonder why they get overdeveloped shoulders. So learn your anatomy, right? He was also very big on what he instinctively discovered was the strength curve. So each muscle works stretched, midpoint, contracted. He, and this is interesting, was against locking out. In one of his books he says, it's much harder to lift the weight than to hold it. He said, and I think he was referring to the deadlift, he said, I can lift 400 pounds, but I can probably hold 800. So again, locking out destroys tension. He got that right in the 1890s. He was also what we would call a flexible dieter. So he would say, you know, I eat whole foods, but if I'm invited to the Emperor of Germany and there's a big dinner, I'm not going to bring my Tupperware. Not that there was Tupperware back then, but he would eat, and then the next day he would just downsize, right? And lastly, he connected training to better mental health. So I guess this is my very long-winded way of saying that if somebody's physique is lacking, it's probably not because you're thinking, do I need more augmentin or more BCAAs, or should my shorts be red or green, or should I go beast mode? By the way, he was against beast mode. He said you should not overexert yourself, you just continuously train. Frequency beats intensity. So I'm saying it's like, what you can learn from a weird dude from the 1890s who wears funny clothes and had sideburns and a big mustache is that for most people, they do not get the essentials right of training and eating, right? And they worry too much about the tiny details which is not what's going to make them successful or unsuccessful. Okay? So, I'm going to list the 10 commandments of Eugen Sandow under the video, if I find the time. And, you know, I'm just going to sum this up and say, when in doubt, listen to the Germans. Maik out.